Welcome back, y'all. It is MaxFlames in the building, coming at y'all with another video today. In this video, I'm going to be talking to you guys about getting your very first placements on SoundCloud. Now, I'm going to give you guys a couple tips that I've used and that I think are very important in order for getting your first placements on the SoundCloud, pretty much just getting your name out as a producer. So just a disclaimer, these aren't tips that will get you your very first major placement, but I feel like they're very important and can be utilized for getting your very first placements. So yeah, before we get into it, follow my Instagram and Twitter at MaxFlames_. Probably by the time you guys post, most likely by the time I post this video, we will be at 500 subscribers. So whenever I post this, it should be Friday or Saturday, I will be going live on YouTube that night. So yeah, I will be posting when I go live on my social medias. So to keep up to date with that, follow me on my social medias down below. And yeah, let's get into tip one. Tip number one, something that I feel like every producer and every musician should be aware about, is that you have to build your brand. So pretty much what I mean by that is, if you're making beats, you want to have your beats on the internet, which seems pretty, it seems pretty explanatory, pretty obvious, but I know when I was starting out, I was kind of in a shell and I was kind of nervous about putting my stuff on the internet, and I know there's a couple producers out there who are like that too. But the way I think about it now is that you won't see any progress, and you'll be pretty stagnant if you don't post your work out there. I think it's very important to be on the internet with your beats, whether you put it on SoundCloud or YouTube, or if you have a beat site or whatever. I feel like that's very important, because if you were to send out beats to an artist, and if they were to look you up and you were to have none of your beats on the internet, they'd be like, who is this random kid sending me beats? It just doesn't make sense to me. It's honestly like, if you were to show up to a job interview without any resume, you want to be prepared. You want to have proof of your work on the internet. Another important point about building your image and building your brand that I feel like is not stressed enough is that you want your sound and you want your beats to match how you portray yourself on the internet. So obviously, social media is a very, very, very big influence in the music industry nowadays. So you don't want to be the kind of person who makes dark trap beats and then on your Instagram you're posting pictures of you at homecoming, or you posted up with your dog. It just looks weird, On your Instagram, you want to have it be strictly about you and your producer business. That way, when people look you up and they see what you look like, they know that you're a producer and they know what you're about. But at the same time, if you're a producer, you don't want to be the kind of producer who posts your type beats on your Instagram every day. I mean, to be honest, people just don't care that much. So if you're wondering how you can portray yourself better on the internet, I personally am a firm believer in investing in yourself. So if you work for your money, if you earn it, I would put it back into building your image, buying new clothes, buying new shoes, and then, that would help build your image and build your brand. So moving on to tip number two, after you've mastered your image and your brand, the next thing that you want to do to get your first placements is to be on SoundCloud and listen to a lot of music and link with artists on SoundCloud. So typically how I would do it is I would go into SoundCloud and I will go into the suggested on the front page of SoundCloud that shows what you've been listening to, and go into there, and then I would pretty much find the artists that come up on there and then get into like a rabbit hole listening to all the different artists that come up in the suggested. And then after I find someone that I think I like, I would go into their profile on SoundCloud, and then I would find their Instagram, and then pretty much I would include a message saying how I like their music and that I have beats that I think would fit their sound. And then pretty much I would just ask them for their email. So I feel like that's pretty effective. You can also use the method of going on to SoundCloud and searching up different internet producers onto SoundCloud, and then clicking on the artists that come up when you search that producer's name. So usually this method works. It just takes a while, because you're going to be hitting up artists who don't hit you back, or you'll send them beats and they don't really hit, so nothing ever happens with that. So I mean, you just have to be consistent with this method. Usually when I hit up artists, I try to find the artists who are within like the 1,000 to 10,000 follower range on Instagram. Typically, I've noticed that the artists who have 1,000 to 5,000 followers usually always hit me back. But if it's any artist from like 5,000 to up to like 20,000, I found that they usually don't respond. And that's just because of my follower count. I have less than 1,000 followers. If you have anywhere from like 1,000 to 2,000 followers, you could probably get a response back from them. But for me, I've noticed that the 1,000 to 5,000 follower range is usually good for getting a response. And usually those artists are the ones who aren't blown up yet. So if you find them when they're in that range, that's like perfect, because you're in a good position to build with them and build their sound up. So yeah, I feel like that's pretty important. So yeah, moving on to the next tip. So the last tip is linking with rappers and artists who are local to you and building with them. So if you guys are in high school, I know there's at least one person that goes to your high school that wants to be a rapper. So it would be a good idea to link with them while you guys are both small, so that way you guys can learn from each other and build with each other. I know when I first started making music, my first songs were with people that I knew. It was a good experience because I got to learn from them, and I got to pretty much learn what it was like working with artists in person. So I felt like that was very important. You guys can also go to local shows, artist showcases. Those are very great for finding artists while they're still small. I've met a couple artists that way, so I feel like it's a very useful way to link with artists that way. And yeah, so I feel like I covered all of the topics that I wanted to cover. These tips are essential for getting your first placements on SoundCloud. It's pretty good for building your name as a producer, because then if you're able to build with an artist on SoundCloud, and if that artist were to get big, it helps you ultimately get to where you want to get to, and that's getting the first major placement. So I'm still on that road. I'm still trying to work with as many artists as I can and building my name. So I've used all of these tips. I feel like these are the best tips to getting your first placements on SoundCloud. So yeah, once again, follow my Instagram and Twitter at MaxFlames_. So yeah, I hope you guys were able to learn something from this, and I hope you have a wonderful day wherever you're watching, whenever you're watching. I'm MaxFlames, and I'm out. Peace.